The desert night was still, yet the air quivered with tension. Dust swirled in. The moonlight, as a line of Navy SEALs stood in formation, rifles raised, their eyes fixed on a single figure at the center of the ruined street. The insurgent commander had taken hostages, his vest strapped with enough explosives to erase everything within 50 feet for a heartbeat. No one moved. Then, as if commanded by some invisible force, the SEALs began to lower their weapons. The world seemed to hold its breath, and then she appeared, walking straight into the kill zone. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Dr. Elena Marquez, a civilian aid worker who had followed these men into places most people would never dare. Her steps were slow, deliberate, her heart pounding so hard it felt as though the commander might hear it. She had seen too many broken lives in this war, too many children left alone in the rubble, but never before had she faced this choice: stay hidden and live, or step forward and risk everything to save the innocent. The SEALs watched in silence. Some clenched their jaws, others shut their eyes as if trying to will her back to safety. But Elena couldn't stop. Every sound around her sharpened: the soft scrape of her shoes on gravel, the rasping breath of the man holding the detonator, the faint whimper of a child trapped behind him. The tension was unbearable. A thread stretched so tight it could snap at any second. She thought she'd never see him again. She was wrong, because the commander was not just a stranger. Elena knew his face. Years ago, in a refugee camp, she had tended his wounds. Back then he had been broken, desperate, searching for hope. She had given him medicine, water, and kindness when no one else would. Now he stood, transformed, hardened by rage, about to bring devastation. And yet in his eyes, she glimpsed the same haunted soul she had once saved. The SEALs froze, waiting for the signal to end it. But no order came. What was right? To strike and risk the hostages' lives, or to hold and gamble everything on her? Elena, one SEAL, whispered under his breath, though his voice never carried. She took another step. You don't have to do this, she said softly, her voice trembling but clear enough to reach him. Her words fell into the heavy night air like stones into water. I remember you. I remember the man who wanted peace. The commander's hand tightened on the trigger. His body trembled. The crowd of captives gasped, their fear living thing. A single click could end it all. But Elena pressed forward, her hands raised, her eyes locked on his. For a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. And then it happened. The man's chest heaved, his arm lowered just slightly. The detonator hung loose in his fingers. With one fluid motion, the SEALs surged forward, a wave of precision and silent thunder. In seconds, the weapon was secured. The hostages pulled free. The threat dissolved into dust. But what lingered was not victory. It was silence. Heavy, reverent silence. Because everyone there knew they had been saved not by guns, but by the courage of one woman who had chosen compassion over fear. As the SEALs regrouped, their eyes met hers. Hardened warriors, men who had seen too much, lowered their heads in quiet respect. Some even murmured her name. Like a prayer, Elena collapsed to her knees, tears streaming freely. She had gambled her life, but in the end, it was not weapons that prevailed. It was memory. It was kindness, because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits and it finds its way back. The night returned to stillness. The dust drifted in the air just as it had before. But now it felt different, like a world reborn. And in the silence of that war-torn street, One truth stood unshaken. Courage does not always rule. Sometimes it simply walks forward when everyone else steps back. That if this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe in courage, compassion, and the power of unseen heroes, make sure to subscribe because more stories like this are waiting for